Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbett, the scientist turned mindset and high performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a short solo Wired for Success podcast episode. The topics I want to talk about today are podcast chart positions, triggers, and dealing with toxic people in your life. Now, you might think that this is an eclectic mix of topics, and you're absolutely right. This particular mix of topics was inspired by a recent event though. So what I wanted to do today is just share a personal story and use that story as a seed to talk about different points of views, boundaries, and those toxic people in your life that just drain your energy. Okay, let's dive right into what happened last week that really bothered me and why it bothered me. Now, as you might know, getting to know people from all over the world and building real relationships is one of the things that I absolutely love about what I do. And one way to make those connections is, you probably guessed it, on social media. If you're doing the same thing, and I bet that 99% of you are, you know that this can lead to absolutely amazing conversations. Or sometimes this can backfire and go horribly wrong because you start talking to people who are rude, disrespectful, or simply not interested in talking to you. And I mean, it's totally fine if someone isn't interested in talking to me and chooses to ignore me. I don't have a problem with that at all. I generally don't take this personally, and I totally get it. I mean, I ignore some messages too if I'm either too busy or feel that it's not a person I want to connect with right now. Now, here's an important point that I would like to make. This is not a judgment about their character, worth, or offer. It's more a decision about how I want to invest my time and energy right now. Because those are finite resources, right? And thus we all need to make a conscious choice about how we want to invest our time and energy. Otherwise, we would just let everyone and everything derail us from achieving our goals. Or to quote Gary Zukav, with each choice that you make to align yourself with the energy of your soul, you empower yourself. Authentic power is built up step by step, choice by choice. And the small choices of how we choose to spend every moment of our time ultimately snowball into the results we see in our lives. Anyway, back to the story. So I introduced myself to that new person as a molecular biologist turned mindset and high performance coach for entrepreneurs and the host of a top 10 podcast. And I get immediate pushback from that person who points out that my podcast is only in the global top 10%, not the top 10 charts right now. So I reply that he's absolutely right. My podcast is in the global top 10% right now. But when I launched it, it was number 9 in the iTunes charts in Germany. And it was top 100 and top 200 in 5 to 6 other countries around the world. So he goes on to tell me that I can't call my podcast a top 10 podcast then. And that's where I politely disagree. To me, saying that I have a top 10 podcast is the equivalent of an author saying that he or she is the number 1 Amazon or New York Times best-selling author even after their book dropped out of the charts again. I mean, seriously, that's what everyone is doing. You don't update your rankings every week saying that you're a number 1 author one week and top 200 author the next week and so on. Just read all the bios of the number 1 best-selling authors on LinkedIn or other social media. Do you honestly believe that all their books are number 1 all the time? I mean, come on, that's technically impossible, right? Chart positions for books and podcasts or anything else are always fluctuating, and everyone knows that. Yet from the point they hit the charts, authors and podcasters use those chart positions to claim that they are a number 1 best-selling author or a top 10 podcast host, as in my case. So just for fun, I did a quick LinkedIn search for the term #1 best-selling author. And guess what? It came back with about 137,000 search results. And in case you were wondering, if you search for top 10 podcasts on LinkedIn, you get 21,000 results. And I'm sure those books and podcasts were #1 or in the top 10 at some point in time. And that's all there is to it. Of course, I'm obviously biased here, but I don't think there's anything wrong with this convention. Making it into the charts is pretty cool and it requires some skill. So I think it's something we can be proud of and that we can leverage to establish our authority and credibility. And that's one of the main reasons why so many experts write books. If they can call themselves a #1 best-selling author, it increases their authority, credibility, and reach. It just helps them build their platform. And the same is true for having a top-ranked or top-rated podcast. It's just a wonderful tool to help you build an authority marketing machine that brings in new high-level leads. And how to leverage your podcast to sell high-ticket offers is actually something that I was invited to talk about as a guest speaker at the recent PodPros Q2 conference, hosted by the wonderful Alex Sanfilippo, the founder of Podmatch. And if that's something you're interested in, just reach out and let me know, and I'd be happy to talk you through it. But fair warning, my current podcast ranking is only global top 10%. Do I wish my podcast was back in the top 10 charts? Sure thing, I'm working on it, but I'm not desperate to get there. I'm enjoying the journey. I have amazing guests. I'm invited to other amazing podcasts, and I'm building great relationships along the way. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I'm still podcasting. My podcast is set up in a way that supports my business, even if it doesn't get thousands and thousands of downloads. Anyway, back to the story. Up to that point, this discussion about the podcast chart position hadn't really bothered me that much. He made his point clear, I made my point clear, and to my mind, there was nothing else to say about this topic. I'm okay with people having different opinions, and I don't have to convince anyone of anything. I can explain my point of view, and I'm willing to listen to yours. But if we don't see eye to eye, there's no need to keep arguing. The way I see it, there are some questions and problems that have definitive answers, and your answer can either be right or wrong, like when you're trying to figure out a math problem or you're running a scientific experiment. And then you have opinions, tastes, and personal preferences. And you know what they say about opinions, right? Everyone has them. Anyway, arguing about opinions, tastes, and preferences is pretty pointless. If you love vanilla ice cream and I love chocolate ice cream, you're not going to convince me that vanilla is better, and I'm not going to convince you that chocolate is better. So I told him that we can agree to disagree on that one and leave it at that. But that's when he got really upset and told me that he was 99% sure that I had only reached out to become a guest on his show. He continued that he had been willing to support me by interviewing me on his top 1 to top 0.5% podcast with so and so many downloads per month, but he now just couldn't justify bringing me on his show because of all the former celebrities that he has interviewed. And then he let me know that it was only my ego that was preventing me from getting on his show. And that's when I got annoyed too. First off, I hadn't even asked to be on his show. To be honest, I didn't even know what his show was all about. I had reached out because I saw that we had connections and interests in common, and I thought that it would be nice to get to know each other. There was no secret agenda whatsoever, and assuming that I only reached out to be on his show is just jumping to conclusions. Secondly, why was my podcast's current chart position so important to that person? Someone is clearly frustrated and projecting his frustrations. And thirdly, why did he feel that I had to justify being a guest on his podcast? The way I see it, I don't have to prove anything to strangers on the internet. I'm happy to connect, I'm happy to build real relationships, and I'm happy to support others. But I don't have to prove my worth, impose my opinions, or attack others for not agreeing with me. When I invite guests on my podcast, I invite them because I would like to get to know them, talk about shared interests, and share value and values with our listeners. Okay, you might think that that person would have stopped at that point, But no, there's more. So when I pointed out that he might want to ask himself why he got so triggered, he suggested that I come on his show and we create an entire episode around the topic, is she really a top 10 podcast host? And at that point, I finally did what I probably should have done much earlier in that fruitless conversation. I blocked that person. And I didn't block him because I'm afraid of having that conversation. I stand behind my point of view and I can acknowledge his position too. I'm also not suggesting to just ghost anyone you don't agree with. But I'm not giving my energy to someone who is so emotionally attached to a certain outcome and who is clearly on a personal mission to win a discussion. Of course, I have to ask myself the same question I asked him. Why does this event trigger me so much? Well, I grew up with a narcissistic dad, and there are quite a few parallels in that conversation that raise red flags for me. What I've learned over the years is that there is no point in trying to have a constructive discussion with a narcissist. Their ego does not tolerate any opinions that contradict their own. They need to win at everything and at all costs. Seriously, when my parents got divorced, my dad said that he would win the divorce. That's how narcissists think. And if they can't win, they will play dirty and try to bring you down too. Mind you, if those people want something from you or they like what you do, they can be the most charming people you've ever met. But those people simply live on drama. They idolize people they agree with and see as equals, and they look down on everyone else. And maybe you have come across people like that too. If you have and you don't enjoy constant drama, my only advice is run. Those people can drain your energy in no time at all. So when I see those character traits in new people I meet, I think twice before I continue building that relationship. And if you're not quite sure, here are 5 of those narcissistic traits to look out for. So number 1 is they love competition, but are poor losers and will do anything to win. If they can't win, they will try to bring you down too, and they struggle with jealousy a lot. Number 2, they like to drop names by status symbols and tell everyone why they are the best. Number 3, they expect you to treat them like royalty, while they treat you poorly and disrespectfully. They become annoyed and irritated when people don't respond immediately to their questions or comply with their demands. Number 4, if you don't worship them, they feel rejected and will try to make you suffer. They need constant attention and admiration. And number 5, they can never admit a mistake. So those are just 5 traits that make it really difficult to build a good relationship with anyone, right? And for me, I found that the best way to protect myself from people like that is to spend as little time with them as possible. As I said in the beginning, my time and energy are finite resources, and I have to be mindful about where I invest them, and I need to set healthy boundaries. So my awareness question for you this week is, do you have people in your life right now who are just draining your energy? And if so, what can you do to set healthy boundaries? I'd love to hear your experiences with toxic people too. If you have a story to share, let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.